Hey, welcome to the Hills and Hollows podcast, episode 1. I'm your host, Jordan Fuller, and today we're sitting down with a couple of my friends to talk about marriage. I read a statistic the other day that said every 42 seconds in America, there's another divorce. And about 50% of all marriages, regardless of where you live, end up in divorce as well. And I thought to myself, the Christian world's got to be better, right? Well, it's not that much better, with about 40% of all Christian marriages ending in divorce as well. And before we check out, if you have been divorced, know that you're not another statistic. The scriptures say, God is close to the brokenhearted, and he heals those who are crushed in spirit. Don't let anyone ever make you feel like a second-class citizen or a second-class Christian because you have been divorced. We believe the Bible says God hates divorce because of the pain that it causes his people. But the Bible never says God hates divorced people. So regardless, if you're dating, if you're in a committed relationship, or you're looking to get married, there's plenty of information on this episode that you'll want to listen to. Needless to say, America has a problem with committed relationships. America has a divorce problem, which makes it all the more rare when we find a couple like the Landreths. Guys, we are so thankful that you joined us for the very first episode of the Hills and Hollows podcast. Why don't you start off by telling us who you are and how long you've been married?
Hi, I'm Suzanne Landreths.
And I'm Dan Landreths. I belong to her. And we've been married 43 years.
You guys have been married longer than I've even been alive on this earth. So I have a lot of information that I get to learn for you. I've been married 8 years. I'll admit, I've got a lot to learn. But why don't you guys start off? Just tell us the story of how you met. You got married at an early age too, right?
Pretty early.
Pretty early.
Yeah. Not right out of school.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we were both in friends that were getting married in their wedding, and that's the first time we met.
And how old were you guys then?
Probably
about 21.
Okay.
Yeah, 21, 22. And then later on, we went... he transferred to Western Kentucky University, which is where I was going to school, and we met again at a party. And
a good friend of mine that had been a college roommate, had been my best man in my wedding. Well, he became the best man in my wedding. He's that good of a friend.
There yet.
Yeah, I'm jumping ahead of myself. But he introduced us and urged us to start dating each other. So I guess he had the eye, and he was God's push to get us together.
You guys got married. Do you have any children? How long did you wait to have kids? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a real good question. We waited 5 years. We wanted to make sure that we had a good foundation and we knew each other well.
Right.
And we even found out later on that our brothers and sisters had a
running bet on
whether or not we were going to have kids.
Oh, they thought you were the couple. They were like, we're not going to have kids.
Right. They were expecting us to have kids immediately.
That's
and
right.
just
So they're all
decided.
placing bets on dates, and it kept piling up a big pot because we waited so long.
So do you regret, or do you think that was a great idea, or what was your thought on that, looking back?
I think it was a great idea. It really gave us time to, find ourselves as a couple and
Right.
be able to not only get to know each other better, but to enjoy our time together.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I look at it solidified our relationship, and by that time we were ready to focus on children.
With having kids, do you guys have different parenting styles? Did you have conflicts with that, or were you usually on the same page? How'd that look?
I would say that most of the time we were on the same page. I
Right.
think we had both been raised very similarly, and so it was, correct them and teach them when needed.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And I think also before we got married and during the dating time and then after marriage and then that 5 years leading up, we had a lot of time to discuss that.
Right.
And I think that helped us get on the same page. If anything, it came to, I was more the disciplinarian.
Right.
And she was the caring, loving caregiver.
That's how it is in my house.
Yeah.
So it was maybe sometimes wait till your dad gets home.
That's exactly. I was going to say my wife's always like, wait until your dad gets home. I don't want to always be the bad guy.
That's right.
It's like, come on. So we've talked about a lot of good things here. What about any kind of conflict? Tell me about a time that you had a serious conflict in marriage and how that worked out. How'd you work through it?
I can't really think of real serious things. I do remember I must have frustrated him early in our marriage because he broke a pencil. He was so mad, but neither one of us can remember what it was about.
Right.
But I'll let you handle this.
So
one.
you are saying, yeah, like I wasn't violent ever.
Oh, no,
Right.
no.
She never with me. We tease about chasing me around with a frying pan, but that
was
really
all
never
joking
happened.
aside.
That really
Yeah.
never happened. But I do remember some time you frustrated me that I was then walking in towards the garage mad, and I just swung a fist at the wall, and I put a hole in that wall.
Oh, wow.
All right. The consequences were I had to repair the wall. And that gave me a lot of time to think about.
think
This
about
is really
it.
pretty silly because it was just feeling angry over a trivial thing.
So what advice would you give to somebody out there?
Yeah. So
Don't punch
Hit a
walls.
pillow instead.
hit something softer. I'd say the serious thing about advice is you're going to have something in conflict, and I'll bet you most of the time it's a misunderstanding.
Right.
So take a step back. Some people like to say count to 10. I'd like to say just step away for a bit, think about it, and say, is this really worth fighting over? And
Right.
it probably isn't. Then I think, from my perspective, I'll say, be the man, step up and apologize.
Right.
That even if maybe it really wasn't my fault, take the hit.
responsibility.
Yeah, take responsibility.
Well, the thing I would like to say is yes, think about what just happened, and is it more important to be right or to be loving? And so when you think about it, and when I think about it, I think now, after we've been married several years, that he is right more often than I give him credit for. And I am more...
He perked up. I was like, yeah, I am.
and I'm more wrong than I give myself credit for. So I really need to think twice and, maybe pray about it and then go back and talk and apologize.
Yeah, it's not a good idea to go to bed mad. And so I'd also say if you can resolve it before bedtime, that's a good thing.
I think that's helpful. We don't always do that, but we at least try, me and my wife, let's try to resolve
Yeah.
this. We might go to bed still frustrated, but at least we're making progress towards the next step.
Right.
Do you think what it means to be a good wife or husband has changed over the time that you've been together?
Definitely.
What's that look like?
You start putting his needs before your own. Start thinking about what he wants to do. You also start thinking about little things that maybe might frustrate you at the beginning. You don't even think about them anymore. You just...
Yeah, you grow together. I think you're kind of saying that you become more and more alike is really not quite the right thing, because we realize that if you did one of those personality tests with us, we are exact opposites. But we are unified in the really fundamental things like theology,
Right.
our beliefs and grounds there.
How important do you think is that? And to be aligned in theology, to aligned in parenting style?
The most important. I would end up
most
saying,
important thing.
yeah, real advice is if you're considering marriage, make sure you're aligned with those things before you get married, because you're not going to change her or she's not going to change him.
I feel like that's how a lot of people think these days. It's like, if I can just change him, or if I can just change her. And there's a lot of young men and women that are looking for their potential spouse or potential partner.
Right.
And it's really advice that they all need to know. Like, you need to look for who you want to marry and who you want to spend the rest of your life with.
Extremely important. I mean, a vegetarian can marry a meatitarian or whatever, and they'll work it out. But
those core foundational beliefs and styles of parenting and dreams for the future let's talk about that. Dreams and aspirations. How is that? Have you had different dreams and aspirations? Have you had an aligned one? What's that look like?
Well, I would say that for the most part, our dreams are very similar. We both love to serve. And so that's really what we enjoy doing. And we do that together. Now, I would say that when he was working, he did a lot more travel than I did. And I wanted to stay home with the kids. And so now I want to travel. And he's saying, I've done that. So that would be our one thing.
Yeah, I think overall goals, like we knew how many kids we really wanted to have,
right,
and be manageable to go for that. Thankfully, God blessed us with those children, because we know other couples that really desire kids and perhaps are unable to have them. So I do feel blessed there that we had the same kinds of objectives in a family structure. We were both, as you say, working in careers that were pretty good paying, so we could afford things, but we had a similar goal to say, live frugal. Don't spend everything you've got.
Right.
That's another cool thing in a marriage is to talk about money at some point.
I was going to say we can move in that direction next.
But in the simple thing there, just if you live beneath your means, you're going to be happier. Yeah, you'll be so much well prepared to handle the adversity of something that went south, the unexpected expense when the car dies and things like that.
Well, and I'm reminded of Pastor Greg's sermon where he talks about enjoy what you have instead of always wanting
striving for more.
And I think that is so important. I think that's something that I've learned over the years is that, sure, you can just keep working and getting more and more, but then you don't really have time to enjoy it. So really just stop and enjoy what you've got.
So as we close out today, what's maybe the one piece of advice or something that you learned through marriage that you wish you could go back and tell yourself at the beginning of this long journey?
Just take time to enjoy your spouse. I mean, do fun things, laugh, and don't ever give up.
Yeah, and I would say put the other person first all the time. And you got to keep reminding yourself of doing that. But it really becomes where you don't feel left out. But when they feel loved and appreciated and cared for because you're displaying that, you're acting that, you're living that, then you'll get way more in return.
Hey guys, thank you for hanging out with us today. And guys, thank you for listening to the Hills and Hollows podcast. Be sure to like us on Spotify. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube to stay connected with the most recent episodes of the Hills and Hollows podcast. We'll see you next time.